Ever since Bohemian Rhapsody made nearly $900 million at the box office, Hollywood has been in a big hurry to capitalize on the demand of classic rock biopics. But what about video games? Well, let me introduce you to Loud, My Road to Fame, a new rhythm game that follows a young musical prodigy on her path to superstardom. It has everything that those big Hollywood biopics have. Well, except for the recognizable music, a well-known band, dramatic setbacks, and award-winning acting. Okay, maybe it's missing a few of the key ingredients that made those movies so popular. But don't write off this game just yet, because Loud is ready to take you on a rock and roll adventure and turn that volume all the way up to 11. This is the story of Astrid, an introverted teenager whose only form of escapism is using an old, dusty broom to rock out to all of her favorite songs. Sensing a budding interest in music, Astrid's father buys her a guitar, setting the wannabe star on the same path traveled by Kathleen Hanna, PJ Harvey, and countless other rock and roll rebels. From busking on the street, to forming a garage band, to performing at a local dive bar, this is a wholesome and generally good-natured journey to be a rock star. While the rise to fame is predictable to anybody who's seen a musical biopic before, the road to superstardom is still an enticing premise that is rife with rhythm game possibilities. Loud basically uses each stop of Astrid's journey as a way to show off a few of the game's original rock songs, generally starting with the easiest and then working their way up to the more complicated heavy metal licks. It's a formula that has been successfully employed by both Guitar Hero and Rock Band, only this time we get cool cinema scenes that make you actually care about the rise of this teenage rocker. Much like those other popular rhythm games, the gameplay is easy to learn and accessible to pretty much anybody that can keep a beat. There are a total of 6 guitar necks on the screen when you're rocking out, with 3 on each side. The note highways on the left are controlled by the up, left, and down buttons on the D-pad, while the necks on the right use the face buttons to get the job done. When a star gets to the end of the note highway, you're going to want to hit that corresponding button to play it and keep the streak going. Miss it, and the combo, as well as the score multiplier, will reset back to the start. Obviously, there's more to it than that. Some notes will need to be held for a few seconds, giving you the ability to bend the sound for a few extra points by moving the analog sticks up and down. There are also notes where you'll need to mash the button for the time when the game wants to toss in a speedy guitar solo or quick finger picking. All this gets tricky as the stars will start coming at you from every side, forcing you to pay close attention to the full screen and hit a series of increasingly complicated note patterns. Look, it's nowhere near as fun as playing a fake plastic guitar, but the layout does a reasonably good job of using the controller to approximate what it's like to play Rock Band or Guitar Hero. Now, aside from the obvious gameplay changes, the biggest difference between the small indie title and those big rhythm game franchises is the music. Guitar Hero was built around the idea of playing some of the most recognizable songs from the last 60 years of rock and roll. Unfortunately, the developers of Loud do not have that luxury because licensing hit songs is extremely expensive. Instead of playing some of the most recognizable guitar riffs of all time, you're gonna have to settle instead for nearly 24 instrumental songs that are designed to evoke the spirit of classic rock, the 90s alternative scene, hair metal, and all kinds of other rock genres. You're not gonna recognize specific guitar riffs or anything like that, but every song feels like it would have fit in alongside the hit songs of that time. That said, Loud runs into the same problem that a lot of other rhythm games have to face, that the music sounds more like half-finished jams than real top 40 tracks. Don't get me wrong, there's some genuinely catchy tunes throughout the entire soundtrack, but nearly all of them feel like they're just waiting around for somebody to add lyrics and maybe a more interesting guitar solo. And that's odd, because there's no reason why these songs need to be instrumental. I mean, we're told early on that Astrid is writing her own lyrics, yet the only time she's ever given a chance to sing is in the very final song. Why not have her sing when she's in a garage band or playing at a dive bar? She literally spends the first several songs pretending to play guitar with a dusty broom, so the developers could have used pretty much any song for these levels. This feels like a big missed opportunity. Sadly, that's true of the story as well. Because there's no real conflict or setbacks, Astrid's rise to fame comes across as boring and predictable. The very few setbacks she faces are no big deal and resolved within a cinema or two. She never deals with the typical rock and roll problems such as drug addiction, destroying a hotel room, being kicked off of a label, getting into feuds with other bands, and the countless tabloid stories. Instead of anything genuinely intriguing, her story is straightforward and only going in one direction: up. Even Astrid seems a little underwhelmed with the story in the game's final cinema, which ends up making Loud feel like it ended right before anything interesting happened. While the story may be a little disappointing, I still had a lot of fun with the game. A lot of this has to do with the rockin' music and addictive gameplay. I'm a sucker for this type of rhythm game, and Loud gets a lot right. The charting is good across the different difficulties, and I liked a great deal of the soundtrack. This is a good game, but with more story beats and a few actual lyrics, it could have been great. Still, it's way more fun than rocking out with a dusty broom. While a bit on the predictable side, Loud, my road to fame, is an enjoyable rhythm game with a strong selection of songs, some cool backgrounds, and a likable young rocker named Astrid. It does a good job of using a standard game controller to approximate what it's like to play a fake plastic guitar, and the gameplay is easy to pick up and full of hidden depth on the higher difficulties. Unfortunately, Loud is marred by a story that's a bit too straightforward for its own good, as well as a soundtrack full of songs that feel like they're half-finished. There's no doubt that this is a fun rhythm game, but if I'm being completely honest here, I'm way more interested to see what happens to Astrid after the credits roll. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. What is your favorite rhythm game? It can be one of the big ones, or who knows, maybe you're into one of the unsung classics that nobody talks about anymore. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back later this week with a look at the new Hitman mode, plus Rise of Fox Hero, Wanted Dead, and more. If that sounds good to you, then I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.